the benefits primarily come from the business travellers that you are building into the HS2 calculations. Is that not the case? Because on figure 6, it's pretty clear that the economic justification comes from the business travellers primarily.
The value of time in the model, which is not necessarily, in the model, the value of leisure time is much, much lower than the value of business time.
When we last discussed this, we said to you that the basis on which you assess business travel, so that a business traveller's worth as opposed to a commuter's worth, is totally out of date. And that was one of our recommendations out of our previous consideration of this report. You appear to have gone away and done nothing about it. Although I do notice, if I can find it, I do notice that you published an analysis in 2012 which suggested a downward revision of how you value business travel to 65 to 50% of current values. And I also notice that when you look at the way business travel is valued in other countries, France, Germany, any of these other countries, it's valued at 3 to 4 times ordinary commuter time, whereas we value it much more. Now, all those facts show, the more you value the business traveller, the more it looks as if your cost-benefit ratio looks okay. If you were to put a real value on business time, which reflects more honestly the cost of the time you spend on a train, your cost-benefit ratio would immediately look negative, wouldn't it?
Sorry, I thought the Comptroller and Auditor General wanted to say something.
There was some work done by the Department in 2009, to update the old analysis, over 10 years old. I'm, of course, using old information. But to update that analysis to try to understand better what proportion of train travellers were, business travellers were, they were on the train, they were actually working. And as I understand it, the department discontinued that research because they were finding it too complicated or something. And to be quite honest, we were a bit surprised at that. You haven't thought it right to pursue that strand, and the reason we're surprised is because it's such a crucial assumption, and it's hard to believe that the assumption underlying the estimation basis at the moment, which is that that people don't do any, business travellers do no work, it seems to me that that must be something that injects optimism bias into the benefit estimate. Wouldn't you say that? I mean, whatever it is, it can't be zero. So as an estimate, it does sound like one which is hard to understand.
Okay, this is a complicated topic. You said, Chair, that you thought we had done nothing since we discussed this issue last year. That is not correct. In fact, we've had an extensive programme of research underway. I think it is referred to in Para 220. One element of that programme of research will be reviewing the numbers in terms of the value that is put on business travellers' time, which at the moment, as I think you know, date from a survey which is over a decade old. So we are seeking to revise that, and I will expect that we will be able to provide new estimates of that, and to provide those as part of the sensitivity analysis around the new business case produced in the autumn. You then go back to the methodology. There are a set of issues around the methodology here. It is quite complicated. We are widely criticised for failing, so-called, to take account of the fact that business travellers work on the train. We do make a simplifying assumption in that, but actually we make a whole range of other simplifying assumptions in order to try to arrive at a value of business travellers' time. What I can say is we are looking at how we can improve our methodology in this area, but our methodology continues to be on a par with best practice in transport planning administrations around the world.
The reason you get a positive cost-benefit ratio is you put a very high value on business travellers' time. That's the reason. If that were to come down, you'd find that this project wasn't worth pursuing just on cost-benefit issues. You may want to do it for other reasons, but just on the cost-benefit analysis. Now, what you've said to me is that there are simplifications on how you assess business time. They're clear and obvious. I think the argument is, and the argument we had last time, is why you value business travellers' time so much more than commuters. So it's the relationship between the value of business travellers' time to the relationship of a commuter's time, which is wrong. And you haven't done work on that. You haven't built that in to your cost benefit. You may be doing work, research. You can carry on doing research till cows come home, but to get it more and more sophisticated. But you haven't used any more contemporary analysis than the one that you did on a survey in 1999-2000. And I think that gives you the answer you want. And when you tell me that other countries you're seen best, that is not true. I repeat what I said before. Other countries put a lesser value on business time because they recognise that people working business people on trains now, using their iPads, etc., work on trains. And you yourselves, in the analysis that you produced, it may not have been completely 100% accurate, may have had a lot of ifs and buts, but it's better than what you've got now. What it suggested was that you should revise downwards the worth of business travel to 65 to 50% of current values. Now, if you did that, if you had regard to your research that you've done so far, and if you had regard to international best practice, you would bring that value down, and immediately what you would find is that this is not a value for money project based on cost-benefit analysis.